So, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, and the California Assembly, they've approved $50 million to defend criminal illegal aliens from ICE deportation. How does this make sense? It doesn't. It's absolutely tone deaf. It's you know what I mean? You got wildfires going on. You've got price gouging. You've got all kinds of stuff. You got a lack of water supply going on in California. Instead of focusing on those things, rebuilding Los Angeles, instead of focusing on those things, we're going to defend criminal illegal aliens in California with yet another $50 million allotment. Let's get into it. Here we go. Check out this Instagram video. Here we go.
This vote last week was initially delayed because of some concerns with the use of the immigration-related money. This is all part of the special legislative session Governor Gavin Newsom called to protect California from President Donald Trump. On party line votes, California lawmakers approved $50 million, half of which will bolster the state's legal funds to fight the Trump administration, while the other half will provide pro bono legal immigration services.
These law-abiding immigrants, they are Californians. They are not criminals.
The immigration...
Really? So who's ICE going after? Who's ICE going after? I see in Seattle, we got a bunch of deportations of sexual assault rapists, right? I mean, people doing crazy stuff to kids. That's who ICE is going after. So when you tell me, oh yeah, these are just normal Californians, that's not who is being targeted here. But anyway...
Money is meant especially for undocumented people facing eviction, intimate partner violence, or wage theft. It prompted an emotional conversation on the floor.
We are giving people like me a chance when they come to this country, fearing for their lives, to get a moment in court, a moment of justice.
To my gente migrante, estamos con ustedes.
Speak English.
Earlier this week, Governor Gavin Newsom and Republicans pushed for some changes to the immigration funds to clarify they cannot be used to protect felons from deportation.
Oh, just felons. Just felons.
To the Journal to clarify that the funds...
Remember, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. So by excluding just the felons, well, then they kind of cover their backside a little bit. But who ICE is going after, who the Trump administration is going after, is clearly criminals, right? So make this make sense.
Funds cannot be used to protect those convicted of a serious or violent felony, but Republicans wanted that actually put into state law. Democrats rejected the move.
Of course they did.
Of egregious felonies such as child trafficking, child pornography, sexual abuse of minors, violent crimes, drug trafficking, and other serious criminal offenses must be held fully accountable.
We cannot have subjective interpretation. We want to protect all immigrants. We want to protect our family members. But what we have simply asked today to ensure that dollars were not used to protect criminal, illegal immigrants, that was not good enough.
We checked in with George School of Law professor Chris McKaylee, who watched the vote.
A letter to the Journal doesn't have any force or effect of a law. It is simply a statement of legislative intent.
It's not clear when exactly Governor Gavin Newsom will sign the legislation. Reporting from the Capitol, Ashley Zavala, KCRA Free News.
Lawmakers today.
Yeah, so this is the State of the Union, right? This is what's going on in California. I mean, and we wonder why things are, progressively getting worse, why things are getting more expensive. Well, it's just ridiculous stuff like this. Let's muck up the process a little bit more. Hey, we're trying to get criminal illegal aliens out of the country, and you guys aren't helping. You guys aren't helping. Now, while California is cracking down on crime with tougher penalties under Proposition 36, it's clear that we're living in uncertain times, economically and socially. So with inflation climbing, government debt piling up, and policy shifting overnight, the real question is, how do you protect what you've worked so hard to build? It's exactly why I trust Lear Capital, sponsor of today's video. To help secure my savings with gold and silver, Lear Capital has been a trusted name for over 27 years, handling $3 billion in transactions and earning thousands of 5-star reviews. They make investing in gold and silver simple and secure. In times like these, when crime is rising and government policies are unpredictable, precious metals are one of the most reliable ways to safeguard your wealth. Don't wait until it's too late to take action. Call Lear Capital today at 855-271-1871 or visit trylear.com/reasonable to get your free wealth protection kit. No obligation, just the information you need to shield your savings from inflation and instability. And here's the best part. If you open a qualified account, Lear Capital will give you up to $15,000 in bonus coins to help you get started. That's 855-271-1871. Take control of your financial future today and make sure your money is as secure as your values. California's Democratic-dominated assembly endorsed up to $50 million in funding Monday to defend the state's progressive policies against challenges by the Trump administration. Now, when's the last progressive policy that actually ended up in accomplishing anything? What's the last progressive policy that actually did some good and didn't just backfire and explode, just right? Progressive policy is terrible. It's terrible politics. It's one of the reasons that Democrats lost the last election and Republicans won in a landslide. Period. Boom. Mic drop, right? Just burp. So if you want to keep going down this road, I'd say, hey, have at it. Legislation sets aside $25 million for the State Department of Justice to fight legal battles against the federal government and another $25 million for legal groups to defend immigrants facing possible deportation. Hey, I got an idea. Why don't you worry about the priorities of what you actually need to work on? And instead of, trying to fund these lawsuits that against federal policy that is actually deporting criminal illegal aliens, instead of trying to come up with ways to spend the taxpayers' dollars on ridiculous lawsuits, how about you just go, help LA rebuild? I don't know. Just do anything other than this ridiculousness. The proposals won approval on party lines after Assembly Democrats delayed an expected vote last week. They now head to Democratic Governor Newsom's desk. He's going to sign it in a heartbeat. This is great. Greatest thing ever. Hate Trump. Even though he wants to go out and, hold his hand, shake his hand and say, hey, thanks for coming. And Trump's like, yeah, go F yourself. We do not trust President Donald Trump, Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas said before the votes. What you're seeing right now is you're seeing all the big governors of big blue states and you're seeing all the mayors of big blue cities in big blue states all getting together and just virtue signaling that they're going to fight the Trump administration. Because what they're trying to spin is that the ICE deportations are of little kids. They're of families. They're, taking families apart. They're going after the criminals. They're going after convicted criminals. They're going after illegals that have deportation orders. I mean, the list just goes on and on. These are people that shouldn't be in the country, and yet they are. Trump administration doing work. That's the way I see it. Cleaning up a mess that Joe Biden made. So Republican leader James Gallagher, that's who we saw, called the plan a political stunt that sapped time away from dealing with wildfires and the soaring cost of living in the state. I mean, what it's going to take to rebuild those areas in Los Angeles is just going to be astounding. I mean, it's going to be a case study in governmental inefficiency. Here's one of those stories. Today, literally, gruesome Newsom, in an absolute reverse course of action, Governor Newsom lifts price caps for new rental homes in wealthy LA neighborhoods. And we're going to cap it because there's been price gouging going on. And then some leader, some real estate guy goes up to him and says, hey, you know what? When you do that, it limits the supply of housing and it causes prices to go up even more. And Gavin Newsom, okay, all right, well, let's do a lift the price cap. Let's do a reversal on what we just did, which everybody in real estate said, well, that's going to do one thing. You've constricted the supply. Now prices are going to go up even more. So nice job on that anti-price gouging there, big guy. It's just utter insanity, isn't it? I mean, it's like watching a toddler fall down in slow motion. You're like, well, that's not going to end up well. And he doesn't know that he's got to put his hands out to fall. He's just going to, that toddler, lurch forward and can't quite get their feet underneath them, and they're just and then there's that split second where the look on their face is they're just gonna belt out a scream, and you're like, oh, here it comes. All right, everybody plug their ears. This isn't gonna go well. You could lose your eardrum when this happens. Yeah, and the kid screams for a second, and you run over, pick him up, and give him a lollipop, and you're, back in the fight. But at a recent hearing in the proposed funding, Democratic Assembly member Rick Chavez Zuzabur said it's about making sure that whatever happens at the federal level, and we don't know what's going to be to a great extent yet, that our government is actually looking out for the rights of Californian families. Well, they are. They are, by deporting criminal illegal aliens. That's how the federal government right now is actually looking out for the rights of all Americans. But the left wants to spin this as they're tearing families apart. Show me a news story where that's happened. Show me a news story. I'll look at it. If the federal government is actually going after families, taking kids out of school and taking dad who's, a legit, he's got all his paperwork, he's 100% legit, and he's taking them off the whatever orchard, I want to hear about it, but we're not seeing that. We are seeing, here's one of my stories. ICE Seattle arrests 4 illegal aliens with criminal convictions, charges for sexual assault. That is what's going on. And in Seattle in particular, we are not covering these stories because it doesn't help the narrative of federal government, Trump bad, Orange Man bad, ICE bad, DEA bad. It doesn't support that theory. The fact that they're actually cleaning up society by getting rid of the bad guys, nobody wants to talk about that because that doesn't fit the narrative of the federal government is doing horrific, terrible things. I see all these people on Instagram and Facebook, and I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but I'll go there and somebody's just having a meltdown. Some libtard is just having a meltdown. You know what I mean? They're just, they're crying about something that doesn't exist. They're just having a panic attack, literally over nothing. I've heard of people within my social circle literally not going to have children because Trump got elected. That's a conversation I've had. And I'm like, what? Why? Why would you not want to have children during the Trump administration? And that makes absolutely no sense. Who the president in has nothing to do with whether you should be, furthering Earth's population or not. You know what I mean? It's just, there's not that cause and effect. We're not in some third world country where everybody's, one step away from just complete poverty. That's not what's going on, where the impacts of a president actually have an impact on our daily lives. They do, but it's more in the forms of, inflation, things like that we have experienced under Joe Biden, under the Biden-Harris, regime. Newsom called lawmakers into a special session in November to pass the proposals. The longtime Trump political rival said at the time that California's freedoms were threatened by the Republican president's election and that the state wouldn't sit idle as he returned to the nation's highest office. So they're literally coming up with imaginary crimes against humanity. They're making them up. There are none. This isn't happening. So we're going to spend $50 million on what in California? Good question. Yeah, defending the criminal illegal aliens, because that's who ICE is going after. But after destructive wildfires broke out in January around LA, Newsom expanded the special session to also pass fire relief funding. The move came after Republican lawmakers said the focus on Trump was misplaced as the blazes raged on. Literally, you've got a city on fire, not figuratively, a city on fire. And what are they doing? Oh, we need to fight Trump. Trump, Orange Man bad. And you're just sitting there going, what exactly, which lawsuits are we fighting? Oh, there's got to be a bunch. Is there? Is there really? I mean, this is virtue signaling at its best, right? Newsom won bipartisan approval for the fire proposals in the legislature, and he signed a $2.5 billion package into law. So, you know how California has a little bit of a budget deficit? Yeah. Even more of your money, if you're in California, is now being spent on just ridiculous things. It's like the condoms that were going over to Gaza. Condoms. $50 million worth of condoms going to Gaza. No. Right? Laws also included $4 million for local governments to streamline approvals for rebuilding homes. That's a loser right there. You're not going to streamline approvals. That can't be done. That cannot be done. And $1 million to support school districts and help them rebuild facilities. How many school districts you got in California? How many schools you got in California? And rebuild facilities? $1 million? What's that? A couple of classrooms? Maybe a wing of a school? $1 million right there. Yeah, that's not much. But no, $50 million is going to go towards defending criminal, illegal aliens. Because that's who's being deported. It's wild, isn't it? It's wild to listen to the other side's perspective, which is just, what are you talking about? Literally, what are you talking about? Another one of, one of my storylines here is ICE Seattle just nabbed dangerous criminals, but liberal Seattle media remains mostly mum. And why is that? Well, when they're deporting rapists, known convicted rapists, it's exactly what should be happening. It should have been happening the last 4 years, but it wasn't. Because the federal government told DEI and ICE, no siree, we're going to let these criminal illegal aliens just run amok in society. We're going to not, remain in Mexico policy. That's gone. We're not going to build the wall. We're going to put in 94 executive orders, and we're going to just absolutely abuse the F out of parole policy. Oh yeah, you got a court date? There you go. Just go on into the United States. All good. No, we don't need a background check on you. It's all good. We trust you. You look like that neck tattoo you got going on there, that's a little bit of concern. I have great concern about your neck tattoo, but we're not really doing any of that vetting thing. Vetting. So, 2016. Not doing that. It's wild, isn't it? You leave these conversations, you read these articles, and you're like, what? We're doing what? What? Why? Yeah, that's what I'm left with. And Jason Rantz here at KTTH Seattle, he dials that in. U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement arrested 4 criminal illegal immigrants with convictions and or charges related to sexual assault, including against children. You likely won't hear much about it in left-wing Seattle media because it would conflict with the narrative that they're helping create with Democrats. That's what it is. He goes on to list these stories. And are these kids being absconded on their way to recess? Did ICE Seattle storm into a church to arrest an illegal immigrant during his prayer time? Were these innocent blueberry pickers CNN keeps telling us are being targeted by ICE under President Donald Trump? No, they're not, are they? Yeah, but I got to ignore that, Sean. We can't focus strictly on, the rapists and the sexual assault predators. You can't focus on that. You just got to keep an open mind because at some point in time, there's going to be a little bit of collateral damage. They're going to scoop up somebody and, whoops. Yeah, and that's going to be the big story. Mark my words. You will have that. Meanwhile, convicted illegal immigrants and those with deportation orders and those that are, basically not good individuals to have in the country are being deported. One of my big stories from yesterday was El Salvador is offering to house criminal illegal aliens that other countries don't want to take back, like Venezuela. El Salvador, for just a little bit of money, is willing to take not only anybody that we're deporting, but convicted felons from the United States. And I'm thinking, that might be just a scooch of deterrent against crime. Hey, you're going to do a 5-year stint in El Salvador. Good luck out there, Junior. Maybe think about that whole criminal deal you got going, right? Wild stuff. I don't know what'll happen with the El Salvador thing, but if you have seen their prisons, wouldn't want to be going there. No siree. Tough go. And that's the whole point of prison, isn't it? It's to deter people from committing crimes. But if you listen to liberal, Democrat media, mainstream media, you would think that we're just deporting children and moms and soccer moms and, dads that are just working hard, getting up at 4 a.m. to go work on the whatever plant. No, that is absolutely not happening. But because that's not happening, that's why you've got this, ridiculousness. Oh, we got to put 50 million into the pot and, just really, really protect against Trump because Orange Man bad. That's all they have. That's all they got. It's just these wild stories that don't really have any basis in reality. But anywho, a lot of people read mainstream media. Oh, is that what's going on? Oh, okay, yeah. Because you'll have conversations with people who don't get their news from a, wide source. And it's invariably, hey, do you know that they're just going after criminal illegal aliens? Oh, they are? I thought they were just going after everybody that was in the country illegally. Well, I heard on the news, and that's where you're like, that's your problem. Need to tune in to News for Reasonable People. That's it for me on this one. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.